Hello, everyone. It is Amanda. All right, hi, welcome to Mondays with Amanda. I'm so happy and excited to be with you today. We have a great topic. Last week, we talked about nonviolent communication and the power it has to strengthen our relationships and the way that we see our children and all the people in our lives. So today we're going to go and dive a little bit deeper into the idea of observing and how to approach a situation with our children or with anybody in our lives, and how, as we can practice and gain the skills of observing and describing, that we are going to be able to solve any problem, and we're going to be able to reduce meltdowns and outbursts and frustration and defensiveness. So as you hop on, please give me lots of hearts, give me some fires and your favorite emoji. Tell me, say hi to me so I know who's on here. You might need to give me permission right there in the post so that I can see your name. I love to see who is on here with me. So again, as you're getting on, say hi to me. Let me know if you're watching live or hashtag replay. I want to know who I'm chatting with today. Hello, everyone. Let me get to the group so I can see that I'm live and everything's working great. All right, perfect. Turn myself down. All right, let's see who is here today. Hi. Hi, Amy and Amanda and Sherilyn and Sally. Hi, Amy and Denise. Welcome to the live today. I'm really excited to talk about this and really to dig in deeper so that we can know how to actually put the words together so that we can observe rather than judge, observe rather than blame, right? So if we can change our communication just a little bit and shift it to more of a curious perspective, we're going to be able to have better conversations, quicker resolutions, and less defensiveness and emotional outbursts from our kids and really the other people in our lives. Okay, it's a principle that's super powerful, and as you can get, when you get good at this, you can have a conversation with anybody. And we're in a time right now that more people need to talk and communicate from a place that is not laced in blame, that's not laced in shame, right? Because that's the only way we're going to come to a solution where everybody's needs are met. If we try to just meet one person's needs in the house and we never take care of our own needs, we know as parents, like that can only go on so long. And then our ability to be good parents, our ability to communicate and connect starts to disintegrate. So we have to help everybody get their needs met. So that is one of the tools we're going to talk about today. Okay, let's see. Hi, Alejandra, Angelixi, and Katie. Diane, hi everyone, Sandra and Gail, so good to have you. Okay, so last week when we talked about nonviolent communication, there were 4 parts, and the first one is observation. Another way to say that is to describe what you see in any situation. If you're trying to address a challenge, or a concern, or a negative behavior, or even to point out positive behaviors, things that your kids are doing really well. There's a way to describe it so it doesn't come off as a compliment, or slash just a blame or a judgment, right? Or a label. Because sometimes even our positive labels can get our kids in the kind of the habit of just looking for that praise rather than understanding exactly why you think they're a great student or what are the details behind being a really good friend. Because sometimes us as kids or as adults, we don't really know what goes into that compliment. So when we observe and describe, we're able to help communicate better with our family members for the good things and for the negative things. Okay, awesome. So let's just get right into this. I'm excited to share this with you. And first off, I want to share a couple wins that were on the Facebook group. Let's see. Stephanie wrote, I was quiet and patient with my son as he started the day off rough. Right? How many people have a day and it gets started rough, right? And there's this invitation to already be like triggered and have your hair on fire as a mom, right? I totally understand those days. So I was quite impatient with my son as he started the day off rough. I just gave him space, but let him know that I was there if he needed me, right? That's what we do as parents. We're there to help our kids, right? To problem solve. We're there to help our kids to learn how to take care of themselves. He took a few minutes. He grumbled a bit, and I followed his lead. He wanted to put on his shirt by himself, and I sat and waited as he tried, and I offered encouragement. Yes, he yelled, but I kept it together, something that is very hard for me. I'm usually the loud parent who walks away in defeat, but not today. Oh, that's fantastic, Stephanie. I'm so glad that you shared that with us, because I love to celebrate with those who are, applying these principles and really making a difference in their own lives and in the lives of their children, right? As you practice being patient, even when your kid is irritated, and you can allow them to have those feelings, right? Because as you allow that to happen, then he's going to be able to feel free to communicate, and then you guys can problem solve, maybe at a different time after you get through the morning, or it might even get to a point in the morning that you can talk about it, right? So that's incredible. So keep up the good work. And as we all know, if we want to make change in our homes and in our families, we have to be the change that we want to see in our family. Because if we aren't able to get to that grounded, peaceful place, there's no way that we're going to lead our family there. Okay, so good job, Stephanie. Amy said that my 11-year-old asked how I was doing over the phone, and my jaw hit the floor. So, Amy, I'm guessing that your child doesn't normally think about how you're feeling, right? And the fact that they asked was amazing, right? I love hearing that, because it's a reflection of how you're showing up for your children, right? As we show interest and curiosity and openness to our own children in the day-to-day of life, and we're helping them resolve their challenges, and we're seeing that their behaviors and actions are way more than that there's some other things happening, and as we can recognize what those needs and those stressors are, right, that we can help meet those, and we can help our kids learn how to meet those needs, then they start caring about what we're thinking. And I know that we love our kids, but it's very different than when we actively share with them what we're thinking and how we're addressing the situation differently and from a heart that's more at peace. Awesome. So if you've had any wins this last week, please put them in the comments. I would love to read them when we get to the second part of this live today. We're going to go over digging a little bit deeper into observation and description and how that can help reduce defensiveness from our children. It can reduce those emotional meltdowns or the tantrums, okay? And the outbursts that happen. This is such a powerful tool as we can do this. It's a very powerful tool for ourselves as we can look at the world and look at it from observation rather than defensiveness ourselves. Okay, the current political and happenings right now are just ripe with opportunities to feel defensiveness, right? To blame and to shame and to point fingers. So the more that we can observe what's going on and be curious and recognize that everyone's just trying to meet their needs, then we're able to help our families, help ourselves, and really help our world come to better solutions. Okay. All right. So first off, when you want to observe or describe a situation, if you are stressed out, overwhelmed, and frustrated, it is going to be really, really hard. So that's number one. To be able to effectively observe something, you've got to get your place into a grounded state. Okay, you've got to get to a place of peacefulness, kind of stress-free, right? That doesn't mean it has to be perfect, but I want you to check yourself. Now remember, in the pyramid, the lowest level is your personal way of being. Okay, when you are going to go and talk to your child about something, right? Or if your kids are fighting and you want to go in there and help things go right, you want to just take a moment and get yourself grounded and remember that bigger vision of what it is you're trying to create and who it is you want to be, right? So for me, My big vision is I want my kids to be great friends. I want us to be able to communicate and to be able to problem solve together and to support and lift one another. So I'm clear about what it is that I want to create in my family. And I know that the only way that I can do that is if I get myself straight first, right? So I always say that it's me, then them. So if I want to help them problem solve, I need to be problem solving myself first, and then I can help them. So number one is to get grounded and get steady before you step into the situation. If you're already in the situation, you might need to take a break for a second. You might need to take a walk. You might just need to say, okay, kids, I need to take a breather for just a minute. I don't know what to do. And I've done this a ton of times with my kids. I'll say, you know what? I don't actually know what to do right now. And I can tell that I'm just feeling frustrated. So give me a minute. I need to think about this. And I'll excuse myself. And I will get myself kind of more in a peaceful, grounded place. Sometimes I pray. Sometimes I might meditate. Sometimes I just take a few breaths. But I knew that I have to get out of the situation. Otherwise, I'm going to be in an overly emotional place or in fight, flight, or freeze myself. So if I'm going to talk to my kids from a lower brain, from like this fight or flight, or from an over emotionally part of my brain, I am going to have a higher chance of triggering the defensiveness, triggering the outburst, triggering the inability or unwillingness to do things or to listen, okay? So the way I show up in the situation will affect what's going on. So that's number one, right? So when we're going to observe or describe something, we need to get to our own steady place, okay? And the second thing that we do is when we're going to have this conversation, we want to describe the situation without any blame, without judgments or opinions, okay? So what you're doing is you're actually looking at it like it's a movie or that you're reading it in a book, okay? So when you're reading something, you can put emotion into it and it can mean this and that and the other, okay? Oftentimes we write that way. So what I want you to do is that when you're in a situation, you want to do something very simple. It's not as easy as I'm saying it is because it's actually kind of hard. I think as human beings, we tend to label and blame and kind of make these quick statements about people, right? You're pushy. She's super smart, you know, she talks too much, right? We'll have these things that we say of people that are really kind of labeling them. So if we want to problem solve with our kids, if we want to help things go right, we need to learn how to observe and then to describe it to our kids or the people in our lives so that we don't trigger defensiveness. And let me give you an example of that, okay? All right, let me give you an example. Hi, Erin and Abigail, Lindsay and Jen. Hi, Alexandra and Amy. So cool. Okay, here's an example of it. Here's an observation. Okay, last time you brushed my hair, it hurt. Okay, so think about if you had a daughter and they said to you, last time you brushed my hair, it hurt. Right? But usually what we'll hear is, you're too rough, right? That hurts. You always hurt me, right? When you say it that way, you hurt me, you know, you're too rough, right? That's going to be more of a blame. That's more of a label. That's more of a judgment, okay? Because honestly, when I was brushing my daughter's hair, I wasn't meaning to be rough, right? But her experience was that her head hurt, right? Her hair hurt when I was brushing it. So when you observe something, it's just the facts. It's just simply what happened without any extra kind of opinion or judgment on top of it, okay? Let me give you another example that might be helpful. Yesterday, when you left for work, I didn't get a hug, all right? And I think I used this last week. Yesterday, when you left for work, I didn't get a hug. Okay, if you spoke to someone that you cared about with that kind of observation rather than, you never have time for me, you never hug me, you're always rushing out the door, right? You never remember to care about me, right? Which one of those statements is going to create defensiveness in a person, right? Yeah, it's going to be the one that's blaming. It's going to be the one that kind of makes me as the victim that somebody else isn't taking care of my needs, right? It's the one that, your partner or your child's going to be like, I don't want to help you with that, right? So you want to be able to describe what's going on with just the facts. Yesterday when you left for work, I didn't get a hug and I was sad, right? So it's okay to say you had an emotion, but you want to own that emotion yourself, right? I could say, you made me sad, or which would be blame, or I'd say, I was sad yesterday because I didn't get a hug from you before you went to work, right? You could say this to your child, and I've said this many times to my kids. I was really anxious yesterday when I went to bed because I asked you guys to do your chores and they didn't get done. And now I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel overwhelmed, right? So I'm clear about it. I'm not blaming them. I'm just stating the fact that the chores didn't get done. Okay. Okay, we've got some good questions I'm going to go over here in a minute. All right, so let's talk about this. So number one, you have to get to a place of being grounded. And as you're able to self-regulate, okay, then you're going to be able to help your child self-regulate. You're going to really be modeling to them how to work through a challenge and how to observe what's going on without the blame, without the shame, without the opinion, okay? Because we know that everybody has an opinion, right? We can both have the same experience, and one person can hate it and one person can love it, right? So our experience is our experience. When we're talking with someone else, to be able to be really effective in our communication, we want to just observe what's going on and not be vague about it. Okay, we want to be clear about what we saw happen, right? Because if we just say, just be a nice boy, why don't you just be good today, right? Well, what does good mean to a kid? Even these small words to a child, they might not really know what you mean. So we want to get really clear when we're talking to our kids, okay? And really describe what it is that we see they're doing positively or even maybe negatively that we want to work on with them, okay? All right. So let me see some of my other things. So we're basically just reporting events, right? Like we were a newscaster. We want to report actions or situations just from the facts and take out all the emotions of it. Just recognize, here's what happened when something unfolds in your family, okay? Because it's going to reduce that defensiveness. It's going to help your children stay out of fight or flight, right? Because defensiveness comes from a place of needing to be safe and not having someone kind of attack you. You know what it feels like to be attacked, even on Facebook, right? We can get attacked on Facebook about stuff, and that can send us into fight or flight. So for us to help our kids and to quickly reduce defensiveness, quickly reduce emotional outbursts and meltdowns, we can observe a situation when we are calm so that we can help talk through and communicate with our kids. Okay, let's see. It's pretty simple, but it's not that easy to do all the time because we're very, very much conditioned to blame, to point fingers, to make someone else at fault, right? Because if we're at fault, then we have to fix it. And so human nature is such that we would just rather have it be somebody else's fault so we don't have to do it. I mean, not on everything, but we definitely have a tendency toward blaming other people. Because if we can blame other people, then we don't have to look at ourselves and we just can keep doing it the way that we're doing it. Okay, so here's another example, okay? Someone could just say, you're a bully, you're mean, you know. They could just kind of label each other, right? We can even label our kids. My kid's bad. My kid, you know, is, you know, just, you know, rude, or my kid never tries hard enough. Like, we can say these things about our kids, and it doesn't help us help them at all, right? It just puts us into this blame game where people don't want to cooperate. Our kids aren't going to want to cooperate. But if you said something like, when you hit your sister, she cried, is very different than saying, you're always such a bully about that, right? If you can just say, hey, when you hit your sister, she cried. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? And you can start having a bit of a conversation with the child. But if you come at it as, oh my gosh, you did it again, you were so frustrating, right? Then they're not going to open up and want to communicate with you. And they're going to oftentimes, especially kids who are uniquely wired, they don't know how to deal with all the stress. And oftentimes they're already stressed, and that's part of why they're acting poorly, right? They're making choices that might not be the best. And so we want to be very gentle when we come into these conversations. Not because we want them to run everything, but we want to be more in a place of awareness so we can understand what's going on, and so that we're calm and ready to observe rather than judge the situation. Okay. So let's see if we have any questions here. Hi, everyone. So Jen says, I think this is a win. I've gotten to encourage my mom, who is raising my niece and nephew, to use these principles that you have given. Hope she will join the group. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Alexandra, will we get to watch this on replay? I'm getting ready to leave for a prior appointment. Yes, so every Monday with Amanda is recorded, and it's in the unit section. You can watch it anytime you want to. Okay, awesome. So Aaron's saying, what if the situation is in the moment? We get calm and curious, and then this observe and describe is after, at a neutral time. Depending on the situation, Aaron, yes, it can happen in the moment, and you use your intuition about this, or you can use it at another time. Okay, it doesn't always have to be at another time. Because what happens is, as you get really good at this, Aaron, you start getting good at really getting to that grounded place and being able to see your child from a place of curiosity rather than judgment and criticism. You're going to be able to talk in that situation and observe without triggering your child. You're going to be learning these stronger communication skills as you practice these with your child. Okay, so that's the good part. Like, as you continue working with these principles, you're going to get better and better at it, and so will your child. Where you can be in a situation, you can both realize, oh, we need to just take a break for a second. Or you can say, hey, let's talk about this. I noticed that you went over to Johnny's house and your bedroom didn't get clean, right? Which is just stating the facts, right? You could approach it as, you went over to Johnny's house when I specifically told you you need to get your bedroom done, and you didn't do it, and you do this all the time. You don't listen to me, you just do what you want to do, right? So all of that kind of stuff is going to trigger that fight or flight. It's going to trigger defensiveness, and it's better to wait to have a conversation if you feel like it's going to go down that kind of a road. So, yeah. So in the moment, if you feel skilled and prepared and you feel like your child can have the conversation in the moment, if not, don't be afraid to just put it on hold. And like I said at the very beginning, a lot of times I'll tell my kids, listen, I don't actually know what to do right now. So I'm going to, let's talk about this later, because I don't really know what's going to be helpful or not. Okay. And it's okay to say that. As long as everybody is, everybody's safe and nobody's hurting themselves, you can come back to that scenario, okay? Sherilyn says she keeps getting error loading. It must be your internet, Sherilyn. Okay, Amy, I'm guilty of that today. My 7-year-old was running after his 3-year-old sister. She was crying, obviously afraid of him, and he continued with a smile too. I think that's what got me. The fact he was doing it on purpose and liked scaring her. Yeah. Well, it would be interesting, Amy, if he really liked it, right? So so here's how you could talk to him about this, right? Because there's still a judgment that you're saying he liked it. He might, just because he was smiling, that was the assumption being made, right? So he's chasing after her with a smile on, and you felt like he's doing it on purpose and he liked scaring her, right? So if you're going to talk about this situation, it would be simply as simple as this. Hey, I saw you chasing your sister and you were smiling. Why were you smiling, right? You could say it a different way that could get him his defenses up, right? Where he could say, you don't understand me. That's not what I meant, right? So you want to state those facts. And yes, it happens to all of us. Like, I lose my patience all the time. Like, I'm not perfect. I know these principles, and so I can have my turnaround time is quicker. But I still make these mistakes, and I still go to blaming and judging instead of just stating the facts. Especially when I'm just busy or I don't really want to be bothered right now with something. I can be kind of impatient. That's usually when I blame and shame. And I don't want to, and I do my best to, solve that. But that does happen. Okay, so we've been going over this skill of observing and describing a situation as though you're just watching a movie. Okay, it's the first step in the 4 steps of the nonviolent communication to be able to truly communicate with anyone, to truly make change in this world, and to make major transformational shifts in your family. It's super important that you learn how to communicate, and communicate from a way that's not going to trigger yourself or your child. And that as you improve that skill, as you practice that skill, both you and your child, you're going to be able to address in the moment more and more. In the beginning, when things are super out of control, or you really don't know how to communicate with your child, or they just seem super out, unable to regulate themselves, then you would just help them get to a calm place if you can, and you would talk about it at a different time. When things were more stress-free, when you can hang out and it's kind of more of an easy-going conversation. But even then, you want to use these principles of observing and describing. Okay, we're just going to describe what we see. So let me give you a couple other examples. And I got this from a website that was pretty cool. It's called Smarter Parenting. And they say making descriptions clear. So if we're asking our kids to do something, if we're trying to explain what we saw or what we're thinking, we want to be as clear as possible. Right? If we're too vague, our kids don't know what we're talking about. So that's part of the power of observing and describing, is to help to be really clear about behavior that you want to continue or that you would like to help problem solve. Okay? So here's one on this list. It says, Danny has such a lousy attitude at school. Right? So that's a statement, right? Is it clear? Do we really know what Danny's doing at school? He has a lousy attitude. Lousy doesn't really give us the specifics. It doesn't really help Danny or even his parents, if this was a teacher saying this, to know what to do, right? So it could be more like Danny struggles to remain calm during math class. Danny seems to be stressed when he has to work problems by himself, right? A lot more clarity. So for you, school's going to come back here in a few weeks, really, a few months, a few weeks. And a lot of us have kids in school, right? And we have these uniquely wired kids. So as you can practice these skills, you can help get clearer with teachers and administrators and the other people in your child's life to really get to down kind of to the nitty-gritty of what they feel like they're observing, what's really going on. And the more clear we can get, the more that we can help solve and meet those needs. Solve the problems and meet the needs. Okay, so here's another example. Manuel, you didn't run off when we were at the store. Manuel, you didn't run off when we were at the store. That's a very clear statement. It told Manuel that he didn't run off when they were at the store, right? Thank you. Thank you for doing what I asked at the store, right? And Mom was very clear about it. You didn't run off at the store. Thank you, right? When we just say kind of these blanket statements, either positive or negative, a lot of times our kids don't really know how to do that behavior again. So we want to get really, really clear with them. Okay, hi Martha, nice to see you. How long does it take to recover from parents not being calm as you change to better habits? I'm guessing, Jen, you're talking about your child. Here's the thing, kids are very resilient. You will see results in just a couple days as you practice staying calm and getting grounded. Okay? And of just observing. Just noticing what you're thinking, noticing what's happening with your child without the blame, without the judgment or opinion. Just get really curious about it, right? Oftentimes we judge things because we want to protect ourselves. We want to, get through the day. We want to survive. We want things to go well, right? We make these judgments all day long because we have to as human beings. But when we're judging behavior, when we're not truly looking at all of the facts, we can miss important pieces of it. So, learning how to get grounded and learning how to observe and notice what's going on is incredibly powerful. It gives you so much choice, and it helps your child recognize what's actually happening so that they can start making connections and you guys can start problem solving things, right? You might not know what to say. You might not always immediately have the answers, but if you can get grounded and you can stay interested, right, and curious and observing, right, instead of judging it or blaming or labeling a situation, you will have way more possibilities and way more choices to choose from. So just a couple days. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for all of so if any of this is making sense to you, let me know if you're confused about anything. Okay, there's a fly in here. Let's see, how about an outlet like soccer will behavior help? For a lot of kids, getting extra energy out, right? Getting a lot of physical activity will definitely help the brain function better. It helps with endorphins. It's overall exercise. We know study upon study upon study, exercise helps kids. And for a lot of kids, it helps their behavior. Absolutely. Now, if you have a child who struggles with working with other people, there may be some skills lacking there that you can help your child learn. All right, so just be really aware of that as well. Okay, not every kid knows how to get along in a group. All right. Gail says, how do you as a par, P-A-R? You'll have to ask that question again, Gail, okay? So he was laughing. Amy, I would still be really interested in asking him without any sort of judgment on your part, right? Like pretend you didn't even know what laughing meant, right? Because you already decided that, what it means. So go to him at some point and say, hey, you were laughing. What was that about, Yeah, that would be interesting to find out, at least his perspective, because the more that your child feels open and heard when you communicate, the more that you can exchange ideas and the more influence you'll have on your child, right? If we just blame and label, then our kids close down. And think about it as a human being, right? If someone is attacking you, if somebody is labeling you, how easy is it to have a two-way conversation with them? It's not. It's not. Your kids feel the same way. Your partners feel the same way. Okay? And other people in your lives. So think about that when you're going to have a conversation or to describe or explain a situation. Get really good at just observing and getting rid of any of those judgments or opinions and labels. Okay? Gabby said, I needed to hear all of this today. Yes, I know. You know, every time I come to teach a principle, it's like, oh my gosh, I so need this today myself. I need to get better at this. So I'm glad that this is something that you needed to hear, Gabby. That's awesome. Okay, so this fly is really, really bothering me. I apologize, guys. Okay. Let's see here. Sherilyn said, #win. Brian says, Mom, I notice if I listen, I get your phone to play my game, but if I don't listen, I don't get it. This was yesterday. He has a game he likes to play. That's awesome. I'm interested if you've made those connections before. Is this something new that he's recognizing? Yeah. Okay, when I listen, when I participate and I'm a team player, right, in the family, then I'm able to use the phone, right? He's making those connections, and especially if it's working for him, Sherilyn. That's great, right? So that's what we want for our kids, right? We want them to understand the cause and effect of things. That's a huge one. Amy says, thank you. I think I may attempt talking to both of them at dinner. I felt bad calling him a bully. He's usually pretty sweet and gentle with her. Yeah, so I would guess, Amy, that something else is happening, right? It might be that, and you can get curious. You know how to do this, Amy, right? To kind of look below the surface and see what's really behind the behavior. Because I'm guessing that chasing his sister is him getting out some energy or doing, it's just meeting some need. What's the need that it's meeting? And finding out that, oh my gosh, this is the dive bomber fly. Sorry, guys. Hi, Lindsay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Jen says, thank you. How do you as a parent get over the feeling of defeat after there is an explosive behavior and you pause, breathe, observe, and have the discussion with your kiddos, but their behavior later when it has calmed down? Then your kiddo comes back to you after writing in their journal and says they are sad because they are a bad kid. And bad kids do not break things and do the bad things. I told her she was not a bad kid. She just made bad choices, some of which you could not control. So Gail, we can look at that as defeat, or we can look at it as another opportunity to teach our child, right? We get an opportunity to help navigate through a situation that didn't turn out the way they really wanted to, and to learn how to not just beat themselves up, and to think ahead next time. Okay, next time this shows up, what might we be able to do, right? This is what's going to happen. It's a great opportunity, Gail, that this happens. In fact, I want you to know that we want our kids to fall on their faces in our homes when they're young, so that we can help them through this process, right? We want this. The home is the best environment to be able to navigate these challenging behaviors or decisions that we make that aren't so great, right? And walk them through that. I would just say, choose not to feel defeated. See it as an opportunity, Gail, to get better each time. If your children just turn around and they never have another challenge, are you going to get better at these principles? No. And it's not reality. The reality is as we learn line upon line, a little bit at a time. Each time we get better at it, right? We talk about how we all fall on our faces, and the goal is for us to have our turnaround time to restart and do a do-over quicker and quicker and quicker. But we all fall on our faces literally every single day. Every day we make choices that we probably wish we hadn't. Some are small and some are really big, right? So if your little one had a major explosion and they broke something and they felt horrible and they went in their room, the fact that they came back, Gail, and told you that they felt bad and now they're struggling with how they're feeling, you get to help them through that and let them know that that's a normal way of feeling and that we can work through these things. So I see it as a win. It's work. It's being in the trenches, Gail. But it's good work. Nobody skips this in our lives. We don't skip this as parents. If we're really trying to be the parents we want to be, these kind of behaviors show up, and we have to learn how to help our kids through it. Okay. Sherilyn says, "Thank you. I want to sign up Brian for soccer, but if he loses, that's when he gets explosive. So I'm afraid of that." Well, that's a great conversation to have before, Sherilyn. Like multiple times, like every time he goes, helping him come up with ways to be able to work through disappointment like that, okay? You could even practice before he goes to a game. Like you guys can prepare. This fly, I swear I'm going to get it. My husband just catches them out of the air. He just catches them out of the air. He should be here right now. Okay. Thank you for all those hearts, everyone. Thank you, thank you. It's so good to know that this is making sense and resonating with you. Okay, so you can practice this even beforehand, Sherilyn. You can say, okay, let's pretend we're at a game, right? And you might play a card game, and let's say he loses the card game. You can start with something there's less repercussions if he gets upset, so that you can kind of walk through what that might look like when he's at a soccer game. All right. The more open and the more we understand one another's our triggers or the things that are a challenge for us, and the more that we're open about those in our families, the more we're going to help support each other. So, I've always kind of kept this running list and openly talked to my kids about what my shortcomings are, right? And understanding what their shortcomings are, right? And we openly talk about it, right? So that, and not to make fun of one another, but to understand that, hey, daughter number 3 or daughter number 2 does not really like to be touched much. So don't start tickling her or she will get ticked off, right? Well, we know that about her. Now, we could be angry that that's the way she is, or we can just say, hey, that's part of her uniqueness, right? And we are willing to see each other's differences. So this might be something, Sherilyn, for your son, right? He might not be really great with losing. So having that conversation way out of the soccer moment, maybe playing a game of Uno, right? Or playing a game of dice where he loses, and then you talk through that situation from a really curious place, from a place of observation, rather than any sort of a judgment. It can help strengthen those skills. So that would be my advice there, Sherilyn. Okay. Amanda, that helps me out now. I see why therapists play games. Yes. They play games. And when we're able to do something that kind of relaxes us and we're not feeling like we just have to think, a lot of times we can talk through things. So that would be a great way to even talk to him, is do something he's enjoying, right? Something that he likes, and just be curious about it. Don't push the conversation. I would think, okay, I want to have this conversation with my son. How can I start it up? And let's see where it goes. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Sandra says, thank you, Amanda. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let me just go over that again. Remember, today we're talking about how to observe and describe a situation so that we don't trigger our kids, so that they don't have emotional outbursts or be defensive or meltdowns, right? As we can observe a situation and talk about what we see, just the facts, no labels, no opinions, No judgments about it, just stating the fact. Then we can start on solid ground, and we're willing to look at the situation, and so are our kids. Our kids are going to be way more open if we just say, hey, here's what I see is happening, right? You went on a bike ride with your sister's bike yesterday morning, and now the tire's flat, right? So something along those lines. Or you could say, you never ask for my, she might say, you never asked for my bike, then you pop the tire, you're totally irresponsible, right? All of that blaming and labeling, right? It triggers us. We go into defense mode. Okay. And to be able to do that, the number one thing is for us to get grounded so that we can start having that conversation with them. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. This will help Jaden. Awesome. You are welcome. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I am super excited. I have a surprise coming up next Monday. I'm going to announce it to everyone. I'm excited. So just kind of keep your eyes open. I'm putting together a little bit of a program I want to introduce to you guys next week. I'm super excited about it. So make sure that you are on next week, 2 o'clock for Mondays with Amanda. And also, please take the time to hop in the group and tell us your wins. Tell us the good things that are happening. If you need some support, go into #support and get that in there. Either I or Jen will try to answer those questions quickly. Last week, I was totally taking a week off. So that's why I wasn't extremely involved, because I just needed a little bit of a vacation there. So again, please, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you. This will help in the classroom. It does help in the classroom, yes. Next Monday, yes, it's going to be exciting. So thank you all for coming to today's live. Go out, get better at observing and describing so that you can help strengthen relationships and have a stronger ability to communicate and really, really problem solve. So with that, I'll see you guys later.